Hello everyone, Pat Ten MMA back with another DWCS breakdown this week. Week 9, we're already almost at the end of the season. I am very late with this episode. I'm recording today is Monday already. So if you guys could just drop a like, comment, and subscribe for more of content regarding UFC. I'm going to try to keep the flow of things after this, try to upload some more stuff on YouTube. But please help me out with the algorithm, like and comment. But we're going to get right into week 9 here, right into the first fight, which will be Luke Fernandez versus Rafael Pergentino. We're going to get into Luke Fernandez first, I think. I think he's a bit more from him. So Fernandez is a CFFC fighter. He was the CFFC light heavyweight champion. He's 5-0. He's 30 years old. He's been kind of one of the hotter light heavyweight prospects for a bit now, probably one of the hottest in the US for a while, to be honest. Trains out of Dante Rivera BJJ, and he's a pretty damn good fighter. I mean, I'm a fan of Luke Fernandez. I was actually there for his fight against Jesse Romans, for his fight against Peter New. I got to see both of these finishes in person, so that was really cool. Fernandez just likes to stalk forward with crisp, clean punches. He has some very quick combinations and some really good counters. He has some really nice leg kicks and a massive overhand right with a lot of power. His best punch, though, and his best weapon is his left hook. One shot KO power with it. I mean, he put down New with it. Pretty sure he put out Greg Ellis cold just with one clean left hook. And that's kind of his thing, you know. Some of his fights may not be the most entertaining at times, but his power will always be a difference maker in these fights. And that's something we've seen consistently. In his fight against Christian Edwards, it was a bit more clinch heavy, boring. I really wasn't a great fight. At least he was able to show his cardio and show that he could push deep. But that's really about the only positive I could take from that fight. It really wasn't a good performance from either guy, and it kind of almost was like he fought like he knew he was going to be on DWCS because this fight was in May. Almost felt like he knew he was going to be on DWCS and did not want to take any risks. So if I can chalk it up to that, it makes the performance look a bit better, but also just a decent level of competition in those last two. You know, Greg Ellis and Christian Edwards are not bad wins to have on the regional scene. On the ground, Fernandez does have some weaker top control at times, but he has some really good finishing instincts. He can be a bit showboaty and let finishes get away, but I mean, like I said, just has that finishing ability with one punch. So sometimes it doesn't even need to get away from him. He's like I said, he's been 20 minutes before in this fight with Edwards. It went 20 minutes. It was a title fight. CFFC does 4-round title fights. And Luke Fernandez is just a really solid fighter. I'm a fan of Luke Fernandez. Moving on to Rafael Pergentino here. It's almost like the opposite, to be quite honest with you. So Pergentino is 5-0 from Brazil. He trains at Game This Fight Club, and he's an interesting fighter. I really don't know how to rate Pergentino, to be honest with you. He's very sloppy. He really only looks to pull counter constantly. He just has an overhand right that he throws, and it's not great. I mean, he's just really not like, I haven't seen anything from him that I've really saw and been like, yeah, let's get this guy on DWCS, you know? He just kind of wings random hooks and then clinches once the opponent gets in the dirty boxing range too close. But he just dirty boxes and wings overhands. I mean, he'll mix in a leg kick sometimes, just that pull counter. But other than that, that's really it. He has some terrible striking defense. He keeps his chin right up in the air. Unimpressive takedowns, unimpressive ground and pound. He beat the same opponent twice, Luis Rodriguez. So this is a really funny story. The guy's 0-2 in his career, Rodriguez. He never fought apart from these two fights. So he fought Pergentino twice and just lost to him twice. Pergentino KO'd him twice in the rematch, and the ref restarted it both times. And then he got put on his back, taken down and put on his back by the guy after KOing him twice, and then ended up ground and pounding him, reversed him and ground and pounded him from there. But even getting put on your back in a situation like that by a guy who only ever had two fights is insane. And yeah, I mean, he ended up on his back after a takedown attempt and just sat there, and I think against Garnier, and he stood up and death gassed and nearly got finished. It was really, really bad. It was like 3 minutes of like him laying on his back. He stood up and he was just gassed bad and started getting teed off on the feet, went to his corner, then got the takedown early in round 2 and got to the back and got the choke. But a guy like Luke Fernandez, I mean, I just don't see how he lets himself lose to a guy like Pergentino. Fernandez is just so much more technically sound, trains with a better gym, is a CFFC champion. I know they haven't had the best success on DWCS recently. I'm not putting weight into that because I do think this matchup is just so favored in Luke Fernandez's favor. I think that, I mean, I just don't see a way that Pergentino does it if Fernandez isn't a can. You know, Fernandez would have to be an ultra can, and we've already seen him fight super solid guys. Not super solid, but solid enough guys that I don't think Fernandez is a can. I've seen him fight with my own eyes. I'm gonna say he's better than that. So I think this is probably an easier fight for Luke Fernandez than his last couple fights, and I'm not really sure what Pergentino has to offer him. I think he's just going to I think Fernandez will probably just catch him with a left hook on the exit with his chin high or something like that. I mean, I think that left hook is probably just going to put Pergentino down and out early. So give me Luke Fernandez by knockout in round 1 in one of the more mismatched fights we had on this season. Just to be straight up about this next fight, it's a really tough one because I really couldn't get a good read on Hedrick based on the tape that was out there. He's 6-0 with 6 finishes, 28 years old, 6'1", from Florida, fought at Combat Night, but he's a very interesting case. He stepped up on 1 week notice for this fight. Props to him for that, but very poor level of competition. None of his fights have went past the 2-minute 48-second mark of round number 1, and it's not like he is dominating or looking like an elite prospect with elite finishing instincts in a lot of these. It's very weird. In his fight against Franklin Torres knocked himself out on Hedrick's hip while shooting a takedown. In this fight against Levant, who's 0-7, he did get reversed momentarily, which wasn't a great look. He did get his control back right away, but even getting reversed by a guy like that just wasn't great. And he's, like I said, never been past 3 minutes in a fight. There's basically nothing to tape on him because of it. He doesn't look crazy impressive. His opponents just usually roll over, or his fights get weirdly stopped easily. Like, I want to say the Vanderveer and Stouter fight, like, those fights got stopped by TKO after he landed a couple ground and pound strikes. It was almost like they knew the opponents weren't going to fight back once they got put in a certain position, and we're just like, all right, we'll stop it now. And it was like, they didn't even let the fights actually play out. They didn't give the people a chance to get out of position. It is very hard to get a read on Donovan Hedrick based on what we've seen so far. He could be the goods for sure. I know he has some good training partners. He seems like a really solid athlete, so I think he could be really good. There's just not enough indication of that yet based on what I saw on tape. For Luis Felipe Diaz, it's almost the opposite. There's enough of an indication out there to say that he's probably not that great. He's a teammate of Manuel Souza. He has a long jab with some decent counters and a decent right hand, but he's not a striker. He has a good switch kick to the body and some hard leg kicks, but other than that, he leaves himself really open to counters and straight punches. Has some pretty sloppy striking overall, but he does some things kind of well. But Diaz is a grappler. He doesn't really set up his entries. He just has like weird low IQ grappling moments, but he can be hard to shrug off at times. He has some bad takedown defense though, but I do think he's good at stalling on his back in bad positions. Diaz is good at stalling on his back in bad positions, but doesn't really offer any offense whatsoever off of his back. And it seemed like he only had 4 minutes of cardio, but then he outpaced Marcin Bandel in their fight over 15 minutes. I have to see this again because all the cancellations and everything. It's hard to even look at his record. This fight was record ineligible. I'm not even considering this. This was another can, really. Like, I mean, Cotto and Bandel are good. That's the thing I'll say about him. Souza and Fisher are good. Wilker Lemos, good. He doesn't have any bad losses. I'll say that all of those guys are solid fighters that I was aware of before taping for Luis Felipe Diaz. So none of his losses are bad, but I don't know. His cardio is sus. He's a sitting duck on the feet after he gasses, and he did gas in like 4 minutes in that Cotto fight. He does have a nice body lock takedown. He couldn't get Cotto down at all and just got lit up with the striking. Got taken down and controlled for the entire first 2 rounds against Bandel, and then came back and won round 3 on the feet. And then the big thing with Diaz is, honestly, he's just looked like he's been on that secret juice as of late. I mean, he looks like a completely different fighter. If you go to his Instagram, this is not the guy you will see. You will see a very ripped version of this. So I don't know with Luis Felipe Diaz. He might be on something. I'm not saying he is, but it's a weird matchup for sure because I'm not impressed with Diaz, and there's not enough out there for me to confidently pick Hedrick. With that said, though, I barely even want to give a prediction for this fight because I honestly, coming into this video, my prediction to give you guys was Diaz by sub, but looking at it now, I think Hedrick's athleticism, I just think the question marks of his unknowns, like, yeah, he hasn't been past 3 minutes, but it's because he hasn't needed to, you know? I don't know if his cardio will be bad. I really don't know. Like, Diaz seems tough to put away early. I will say that. None of his losses come early. He's fought good finishers before. I don't know if I trust Hedrick's cardio to just get to that point, though. I really don't have a great read here. I'm just going to throw out Diaz by sub pick, maybe, because Diaz has subbed a guy like Finolto Antunes, who was on the Contender series. He has better wins. He's fought a significantly higher level of competition. So even though he hasn't impressed me, I think I'm going to have to go with that. But I would not be shocked if this was like a Felipe Franco, Freddie Vidal part 2 situation, and Donovan Hedrick just ended up beating him. I also wouldn't be shocked if neither guy got a contract with a win here, if neither impress or whatever. I don't know. This is a very strange fight, and it was really hard for me to analyze, and I spent way too much time on it. Our next fight on the card is a very, very fun flyweight fight between a tough alumni and Imanol Rodriguez and Jorge Jr., which he is really solid. So this is a really good fight. I'm going to get into Imanol first here. Imanol is a tough alumni. He lost on the semifinals this year against Joseph Morales in a very controversial split decision. He's been training with DC at the academy since. He's a Pan American Sambo combat champion. He's 3-0 as a boxer. And Imanol is just a beast. He has insanely fast punches, a sharp jab, and a killer left hook. Really dangerous blitzing hooks and a big overhand right. He has some massive rear uppercuts and rips the body apart. He'll just rip the body constantly. He's always going there, finishing or starting combinations with his body hooks. Clean body kicks as well, very well placed, good spinning back fists, and he'll just storm forward throwing quick power punches in combination. He loves to force those exchanges in the pocket. He can fight on the back foot pretty well, and he has some just really sharp offensive boxing and is a great finisher. I'm a big fan of Imanol Rodriguez. He does get hit a bit too often, especially when he brawls, but he does have a strong chin. He has a strong double leg, some nice tosses and trips. Bad takedown defense, I think. Honestly, Morales got him down a couple times there. I didn't think his takedown defense looked great, but his grappling once it hits the ground is incredible. He has some slick reversals, great submission defense. I just love him in scrambles too. Some vicious ground and pound. He has probably some of the hardest ground and pound at flyweight right now. I'm willing to bet on that. And he has some great back control. Has only ever really shown the rear naked choke as a submission threat, though, so he doesn't really have much of a submission threat. He did have his back taken by Morales early on in that fight, though, and he was controlled for almost an entire round, but reversed late. If you're wondering why he doesn't have the loss on his record, by the way, I should have showed, but Joseph Morales' fight was on the Ultimate Fighter. It was an exhibition match, so it doesn't count. But these are the records of his opponents. He has a decent level of competition for 5 pro fights. If you want to include the 7 pro fights, really solid level of competition. He got hit a bit too much in the Morales fight, though. I did think that there were some issues there, and I think that Gomes also here in this fight tagged him with some big shots, and it was way too often. He got hit with a lot of big punches in that fight, so his striking defense definitely is something to worry about. Despite how good his striking offense is, his striking defense definitely has some holes in it, and he does get hit too much, but his chin seemingly has no issues at it whatsoever and no flaws in it. Moving on to Jorge Jr. here. Jorge Jr. or Jorge Conceicao, I know they're going by Conceicao and Contender series. Jorge Jr. has a really solid level of competition, in my opinion. I think he's fought some decent fighters, and even his losses come to 2 solid fighters in Hugo Paiva and Dennis Araujo. Apparently this Araujo fight was close to some people. I know some people said that they thought Conceicao won. I didn't really see that, but I mean, if there's the argument there, I'm gonna have to put it out there because I personally didn't see it, but I know others did. And even the Paiva fight was pretty close. I thought he did gas out pretty bad in round 2 when Paiva started to put on a pace and a pressure on him, and he did get tagged up pretty bad in that second round. But overall, he has some really good cardio normally. So I think that was just an outlier performance. I don't want to say that was the typical. And Conceicao is very aggressive with his footwork. He's always on the front foot, but he's very patient with his striking. He has a solid jab and a cracking straight right hand. Conceicao is aggressive with the footwork. He's always on the front foot, but he's very patient with his striking. He has a very solid jab and a cracking straight right. He counters really well and has a powerful step in left hook that is a kill shot. He has some good lead hooks with both stances as well. When he switches to southpaw and throws the lead hook with his right hand, it's clean. So he just has good lead hooks in general, and he punishes over aggression very well. He mixes in leg kicks here and there. They're definitely a tool in his game, but I think he should use them a bit more. And he's very defensively sound, but honestly, everything kind of falls apart completely if he's forced on the back foot. He has some solid takedowns on the cage, but lacks really good control, to be honest, and I don't think his takedown defense is that great either. He does have some good reversals, and he'll throw up submissions, and I do think he has some really slick back takes with a nice RNC, but he can be a bit showboaty and get himself in a bad spot at times. Araujo, I felt, kind of worked him early with the leg kicks while kind of just circling the outside. I thought Conceicao really struggled to find his range in that fight, and I didn't think it was a very great performance from either guy, to be honest. And like I said, when Paiva started to put a pace and pressure on him in round 2, he kind of started cracking, but then he came out in round 3 looking fine. So maybe he just needed a break. Maybe, I really don't know, but the pace and the pressure seem to be somewhat of an issue. So I think if Rodriguez uses a similar style here, he could get the win, and that will be my prediction, is that Imanol Rodriguez wins this fight by decision. Actually, I think Conceicao is very tough, despite how strong Imanol is, despite how powerful I think he punches. I think Conceicao is a really good fighter. Okay, seems solid to me, but Imanol just kind of seems special. He just seems like he has that specialness about him. Imanol, I think, will give him problems when he's on the front foot and can hang a bit more comfortably when he's on the back foot, but I think that he'll definitely lose some moments. I think whoever's pushing forward in this fight more is likely going to be the winner. I think Hoke will have moments. I think Imanol will have moments. I think Imanol is going to have a really tough test in front of him, but I think with his recent training, with his just skill level in general and his ceiling, I think that as long as he keeps his chin tucked, as long as he is defensively sound and doesn't get tagged too much, I think that he should be able to win this fight by decision. I think Hoke is tough. I think Imanol is tough. I think this fight will probably go the distance, but I wouldn't be shocked if either guy ended up catching the other. Moving on to our co-main event here. Our co-main event is an interesting matchup between Mark Vologdin and Adrian Martinetti. Very intriguing fight. I'm going to start off with Mark Vologdin first here. He is very small, straight up. He is a 5'5" flyweight, and he looks every bit of it. He has some really quick feet. He's constantly bouncing. He switches stances very comfortably. He has a good counter 1-2, some clean combinations with his right hand, from the southpaw stance especially, and really nice check right hook. He can double up on that check right hook and land it very effectively. He mixes punches to the body well and has a really clean left hook to the body and some really nice step in knees. He really lets his hands go when his opponent gets trapped on the cage and has some really solid power. A lot of kicks from the left side as well, and some really solid spinning kicks, but he can be caught moving back and on the cage and doesn't deal with pressure and volume all too well. He doesn't really check leg kicks great and waits for over aggression to shoot well-timed takedowns with decent entry. Feel like that's really what he likes to do in his lot of fights, is wait for the over aggression from his opponent or force the over aggression himself if he has to. He has some really great chokes though. He has a lot of good chokes in his arsenal: north south, rear naked. I think he also has an arm triangle. Yeah, he has a couple different good chokes in his arsenal, but he has had some issues with takedown defense in his losses. He's tricky off the back with arm bars, but it will lose him minutes at times. His losses seem mostly close, and then he'll get trapped in a bad spot on the bottom and just lose too many minutes. I feel like he's probably a little bit too over aggressive on top. The problem with his losses is I wasn't able to see anything other than some real highlights. They kind of were decent highlight tape to kind of try to give you a tale of the story, but you'll never really know based on a highlight package. From what I could tell though, he got a bit over aggressive on top, got reversed, and then was put in some bad spots off his back. His losses, like I said, just seem mostly close, but then he makes a mistake and then loses because of that. Two decisions and one submission. And Vologdin does this weird thing sometimes where he'll let himself fall when he's being rushed and then just kind of accept being on his back. Like he'll like get rushed into and then just kind of like accept the fact that he got rushed and like try to work off of his back now, which I don't know if something like that will work against Adrian Martinetti, who is an incredible grappler in my opinion. Martinetti mostly stays patient at range, waiting for openings. He has some pretty sloppy striking in general, to be honest. He throws a bit wild, but when he's calm, he can definitely do enough on the feet with some decent leg kicks and a jab. He has a decent jab overall, but a pawing straight hand, and I really don't rate his striking in general. We saw a massive KO in this Juan Campos fight, but I don't really know if he has power like that. I don't know if he has a good overhand like that. He landed a massive overhand right, but it didn't convince me that Adrian Martinetti is a very powerful puncher. He has some really good footwork and movement though. He evades strikes pretty well. He doesn't shoot often, but he always ends up on the ground. Some really slick back takes and scrambles and great back control. And he has a really strong rear naked choke, squeezes with everything in his power, really good transitions overall. He'll turn his takedown defense into effective offense and just has some great control on the ground. He sometimes slides off and loses position a bit, but he'll end up getting it back most of the time. And I honestly think he has has a disgusting armbar. We saw it in the fight against Calu dos Santos. It was an insane armbar. He wrapped the foot behind the head and almost grabbed like an arm triangle as he was armbarring him. It was actually probably one of the craziest submissions I've seen in a long time. It was really cool. And he has also a Gogo Plata win down here. He's won by Gogo Plata before. He also hasn't lost since 2017. He's on like a 14 fight win streak right now. And he's just seemingly a disgusting BJJ grappler. He has decent punches on top, but nothing too crazy with the ground and pound. He stays patient and calm when in submissions and will work out well. And he's been 5 rounds before. His cardio looked great and his pace stayed the exact same. This is a very interesting matchup between a guy who, in Vologdin, who I consider pretty well-rounded, and a guy who, in Martinetti, I don't really consider that well-rounded. I don't rate his striking much, but I rate his grappling so much, and almost all of Vologdin's fights end on the ground. His losses were because he got put on his back on the ground. I think Martinetti's really tricky. He's a significantly more tricky grappler than the guys that Vologdin has fought recently, especially, and the guys that beat Vologdin seem to have been trickier grapplers, like maybe Martinetti, maybe even not on that level. I think they have similar levels of comp overall. I really don't think there's much of a difference there, but Vologdin's size just throws me off, to be honest. I expect a close fight. I do favor Vologdin on the feet, Martinetti on the ground. I could see Martinetti just racking up top control here after a reversal, or maybe even just ending up on top himself, just holding the back, maybe getting a choke. I do expect a lot of grappling in this fight, though. That's why I will be picking Adrian Luna Martinetti to win by decision. I could easily see a submission in this fight as well. Not too confident, but I do think he'll get the win here. Decision or submission would make sense to me. I do expect a lot of grappling. I think he is the better grappler. I think he's trickier with stronger cardio as well. And I think that the longer the fight goes, probably the better and more in control Martinetti will be. And I do expect Martinetti's early pace to dictate how the fight will play out, because I think Vologdin will mostly fight the same as he normally fights. But if Martinetti switches things up, it could throw off the pace of this fight. So I think it'll be on him to choose whether he wants to do that or not. And I don't think he even needs to. I think he still can get the win regardless. I think he's just a very skilled grappler. Moving on to an incredible main event. I mean, I'm dreading talking about this main event in a sense, because I don't want either guy to lose, to be quite honest. I'm going to start with Lucas Caldas here, who is 6-1 with a Muay Thai and kickboxing background, all wins by KO. 5 in round 1. Caldas is always on the front foot pushing the action. He'll trap against the cage and fire powerful combinations. He uses a quick and short jab to set up his power shots and has a clubbing right hand, a nasty right hooks with a great angled uppercut. He switches stances so fluently and fires the right hook from southpaw just so clean. And he has some crippling body hooks. Great step in elbows, quick and clean knees, massive power in his punches. He's just so confident and clean with his boxing, and he wears his opponents down with a ridiculous pressure and pace. I mean, I'm such a fan of Lucas Caldas' boxing on the feet. It is genuinely incredible. I am all in on Caldas' boxing. But he does leave himself open. That's the big problem. Leaves himself open to big counters. He gets hit way too often, especially when moving straight back or exiting the pocket. But he clearly trusts his chin. He's been rocked twice bad. He was rocked bad in seconds against Ramos. Got cracked in the pocket in seconds against Moulin, Patrick Gomes. And I mean, those two fights were very weird. The one DQ, don't get me started on that. That was a terrible, terrible DQ. He stomped to Gomes' body, and the ref called the fight and said it was a DQ. He was literally seconds away from finishing him, stomped him to the rib, and the ref called the fight because of a DQ. So that was literally completely on Lucas Caldas. Very bad moment, but I don't even know if that's a real DQ. Like, I don't know if stomps to the body are illegal like that. I really don't know the rules on that. I thought that they were legal, so I was confused seeing that finish, to be honest. But he was taken down and controlled by Guerra for a minute in this fight. He can escape, but he also can end up on his back in some of these scrambles just because he's not the best grappler. And then the other knock I would have on Caldas is the fact that his level of competition, you know, isn't the best. He hasn't really fought any great opponents, but none of, like, this isn't a terrible level of competition for a 6-1 record. And getting into a guy like Magomed Zaynukov, who also has a Muay Thai background similar to Lucas Caldas. He works with Khabib in Islam. He's been well known for a bit as one of the more legit prospects. I honestly, though, will be straight up, I was unimpressed with his boxing. He was super low volume and had little power, in my opinion. He has a solid counter straight right when his opponent's blitzing, and seemingly a really powerful and clean step in left hook, but you just haven't seen him throw punches as much in his last two. He's had very, very strange performances in his last two fights, where he went from 5 straight KOs to start his career to now 2 decisions. And you look at the opponent's records, and they're seemingly decent opponents. I didn't think the highest of Zaynukov or Poles, to be honest. I mean, there probably is a better level of competition than Caldas, I'll say that. But I didn't think anything crazy of these opponents, that they would have been someone that he would have not finished and even gassed against as the fight went on. And that's really where I'm confused here. He wing his hooks wide. I mixes in some nice uppercuts sometimes, but he throws a lot of kicks. He really doesn't throw his hands. A lot of leg kicks, oblique kicks. He just constantly attacks the lead leg as his jab. He has front kicks to the head and body that he uses constantly, mixing the head kick and spinning back kicks every so often, but he'll just use his kicks to maintain range and just kind of chill and control the fight. He has some nice clinch knees and step in elbows, but he just doesn't do well when people crash in. He gets caught with his hands way too low, way too often, and he has some questionable striking defense overall. He has an alright double leg and some decent top control, but his takedown defense is bad. He has decent reversals on the ground, but like I said, he just barely has been throwing punches. Like against Zaynukov, he didn't do anything. It was so weird. And then against Poles, he landed a lot of big shots, but they didn't have much power. Like, that's the thing. He landed punches that should have been landing clean and putting Poles down or something, but he just wasn't landing with any power. There was no power behind these punches. So I'm not a fan of his gas tank either. He lacks the ability to put fights away later on due to fatiguing and slowing down. Seemingly had so much more power in his early career. I really don't know what happened, because that step in left hook was putting people out in his early career, and then in his last two fights, he's like barely used the punch at all, and hasn't had any power. So I really don't know what to think of Zaynukov, to be honest. If I'm going based off what I thought of them coming into tape and what I thought of them before DWCS, I'd pick Zaynukov easily. My issue is I did the same thing with Cubanza last week, because last week I thought Alvidrez looked better than Cubanza on tape. So I'm really impressed with Caldas on tape here. I'm not as impressed with Zaynukov, to be honest, and I think he has flaws that Caldas could potentially exploit. So I think I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to go with the underdog here. Give me the massive underdog, Lucas Caldas, to win this fight by knockout in round 2. I don't expect much grappling here. I think Zaynukov will slow down more if the fight extends. Caldas has a lot more power and just levels better with his boxing, to be honest with you. Zaynukov is a master of kicks at range, so I'm wondering if he'll be able to just scare Caldas away. But Caldas hasn't ever shown respect to an opponent in any of his fights before. Not one time has Lucas Caldas went into a fight and shown like a lot of respect for the guy he was fighting. He just walks them down and tries to KO them immediately. Like, all these finishes are so quick, so early. So with that said, to be quite honest, I really think he might do the same here. If Caldas respects him too much, I think Zaynukov may catch him with a kick, but if he doesn't respect him, he might just walk him down. I think there's going to be such a massive difference in power once they start exchanging punches that I don't know if Zaynukov's going to be able to take it. Caldas' chin is my biggest worry. He's been rocked before in the past. It really depends on if Zaynukov gets to his range and is able to land a kick, because I could see him knocking him out with a kick. But with his punches, I really don't see it happening. So if Caldas just cuts off the kicking range completely, I really could see him KOing Zaynukov. I know it probably won't happen. He's a plus like 400 underdog. I think Zaynukov is even minus 1100 at one point, which is nuts. But I haven't went with a big underdog yet this season. So honestly, I liked what I saw on tape better from Caldas. I'm going to go with the underdog in Caldas here to get the second round knockout. I wouldn't be mad if I'm wrong. I could easily see Zaynukov winning. He has the better resume. He trains with the better fighters. It wouldn't be a surprise at all to me, but I don't know. I kind of like Lucas Caldas potentially win a big upset here. Thank you everyone for getting to this point. If you have watched to this point, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I can't believe we're already on week 9. I mean, we're about to end this season, but hopefully I will still be bringing you more content and stuff for UFC. I'm going to try to get more involved with stuff that takes a little bit less time, a little bit less, grueling to do, because this takes a lot of time out of my day, a lot of time to tape study. So definitely going to try to find something in the future to continue doing this with. But until then, I will catch you guys soon. Be good. But I will see you guys next week for week 10, our last week of Dana White Contender series. Please don't forget, like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next one.